Imagine this, it's a freezing winter night. Snow is piling up, and the wind is howling like it's trying to make sure no one sleeps. Now, you could curl up under a pile of blankets, but what if, instead, you just turned yourself off for a few months? Yep, like a sleep so deep, you don't even need food or water. Sounds wild, right? Well, that's exactly what some animals do, and it's called hibernation. But why do they do it? Why would an animal just drop everything and sleep through entire seasons, like they're starring in their own Netflix show called Winter Snooze? The answer to that lies in survival. To understand it better, let's jump into the world of hibernation and figure out why some animals hunker down while others are out there braving the cold. Hibernation, the ultimate life hack. So, what exactly is hibernation? It's more than just catching some extra Z's. It's like a survival superpower. During hibernation, animals drastically lower their body temperature, slow their heart rate, and go into a state that looks a lot like sleep, but on a whole new level. Their metabolism drops so low, they can go weeks or even months without eating. In some cases, it's almost like they've hit the pause button on life itself. But here's the thing, hibernation isn't just a winter vacation. It's a strategy. When food becomes scarce, and weather conditions are just too harsh, hibernation is an animal's way of conserving energy and making sure they live to see better days. Now, not all animals hibernate in the same way, and they don't all hibernate for the same reasons. Let's break it down and dive deeper into the world of hibernators. The seasonal struggle. Alright, first things first, why do animals even need to hibernate? It's all about survival in tough conditions. Imagine you're a bear, a bat, or even a tiny squirrel. The leaves fall, the temperature drops, and suddenly, your usual food sources, berries, insects, nuts, are either buried under snow or have completely vanished. Now, you've got a problem. You need energy to stay alive, but there's no energy to be found. That's where hibernation comes in. By slowing down their metabolism and reducing their energy needs, hibernating animals don't need to hunt, forage, or scavenge during these brutal months. Instead, they use the fat they've stored up during the warmer months to keep them alive through the cold. It's like stocking up on snacks for a long road trip, except your body is the one providing the snacks from your fat reserves. Different species, different strategies. Not every animal approaches hibernation the same way. Some animals go for full-on hibernation, while others just take it easy with a milder version of slowing down. Let's take a look at a few champions of hibernation. 1. Bears. The sleepy giants. When we think of hibernation, most of us picture bears. And while it's true that bears do hibernate, they don't do it in the traditional sense. You see, bears go into a state called torpor, which is like hibernation light. Their body temperature doesn't drop quite as dramatically, and if they're disturbed, say by a predator or an unexpected thaw, they can wake up pretty easily. But don't be fooled by the lighter sleep. During torpor, a bear's heart rate can drop from a normal 50 beats per minute to a sluggish 8 beats per minute. Yeah, that's low. Bears usually enter torpor during winter, when their food, fish, berries, and smaller animals, become scarce. They spend months preparing by eating massive amounts of food to build up their fat reserves, sometimes gaining hundreds of pounds. Once they've eaten enough, they retreat to their dens and snooze through the winter. And get this, female bears even give birth while in torpor. Talk about multitasking. 2. Bats. The masters of metabolism. Bats are another famous hibernator, but their strategy is a bit more extreme. These little guys will drop their body temperature to match their surroundings, which could be as cold as a refrigerator. During hibernation, they also reduce their heart rate from about 400 beats per minute to as low as 10 beats per minute. They rely on fat stores built up during warmer months and find cool, dark places like caves to hibernate in. For bats, hibernation is all about energy efficiency. Since they normally feed on insects, which are hard to find during winter, hibernation helps them avoid the energy cost of searching for food when it's practically non-existent. 3. Hedgehogs. Tiny tanks of energy. Hedgehogs have a similar tactic but go all in on full hibernation. These spiky little creatures curl up into a ball and reduce their heart rate from 190 beats per minute to as low as 20 beats per minute. Their body temperature can drop to nearly match the chilly surroundings, conserving as much energy as possible. By the time they emerge from hibernation in spring, they've often lost a lot of weight, but they've survived the coldest months by essentially going off-grid for a while. 4. Frogs, frozen but alive. Okay, now for one of the wildest examples, frogs. Some species of frogs, like the wood frog, have a crazy survival technique where they literally freeze solid during the winter. Their hearts stop beating, and their bodies become ice blocks, but thanks to special chemicals in their blood that act like antifreeze, they don't die. When the temperatures rise again in spring, these frozen frogs thaw out and hop back to life like nothing happened. It's one of the most extreme forms of hibernation in the animal kingdom, and it's nothing short of miraculous. I mean, imagine freezing solid and being totally fine with it. Talk about taking chilling to the next level. 5. Ground squirrels, deep sleepers of the Arctic. Ground squirrels, particularly those living in Arctic regions, are hibernation pros. They enter deep hibernation, dropping their body temperature so low it's almost the same as the outside environment. For Arctic ground squirrels, that means their body temp can fall below freezing. They stay in this state for about 7 months, periodically waking up for brief periods to warm up before slipping back into their frosty slumber. This extreme version of hibernation helps them survive in environments where temperatures are too cold and food is too scarce to support them during winter months. They are the literal embodiment of chill. How do animals know when to hibernate? Here's a cool question. How do animals know it's time to hibernate? Is there a giant animal calendar that says, hey, it's hibernation season? Not exactly, but they do have some built-in biological clocks that are just as good. Animals rely on a combination of environmental cues and internal signals. For instance, shorter daylight hours and dropping temperatures signal to many animals that winter is coming. On top of that, some species' bodies are programmed to respond to changes in food availability and even hormone levels, which tell them it's time to start slowing down. For hibernating animals, preparation is key. They often spend the fall months eating as much as possible to build up fat reserves. This fat is essential because, during hibernation, they're not going to eat at all. Instead, their body will slowly burn the stored fat to keep their vital systems running, even while they're in that deep, sleep-like state. Why don't all animals hibernate? You might be wondering, if hibernation is such a great strategy, why doesn't every animal do it? Well, the answer lies in how different species have adapted to their environments. Some animals have developed other ways to cope with winter that don't involve going into hibernation. For instance, deer and wolves tough it out by growing thicker fur and continuing to hunt and forage during the colder months. Migratory birds, on the other hand, avoid the issue entirely by flying south to warmer climates where food is still available. These strategies require energy, but for animals that are well suited to them, they work just as well as hibernation does for bears and bats. Another reason some animals don't hibernate is that they don't face the same food shortages or temperature extremes that drive hibernation. Animals in tropical or equatorial regions, for example, don't need to hibernate because their environments remain relatively warm and food stays available year-round. The risks of hibernation may sound like the ultimate solution to winter's challenges, but it comes with its own risks. Animals are extremely vulnerable while they hibernate. If a predator discovers their den or if they're disturbed, they can't defend themselves very well, and waking up from hibernation is no easy task. On top of that, there's always the danger of not storing up enough fat to make it through the entire winter. If an animal runs out of energy reserves before the cold months are over, it could starve to death while still in hibernation. And let's not forget that climate change is also having an impact on hibernating species. Warmer winters can cause animals to wake up too early, before their food sources have returned, which can be disastrous. It's a delicate balance, and one small disruption can lead to big problems. Conclusion: hibernation is nature's survival superpower, so, why do some animals hibernate? Because it's their best shot at surviving the toughest season of the year. Whether it's dropping heart rates, freezing solid, or snoozing in a cozy den, hibernation is all about survival. It's a fascinating adaptation that shows just how creative and resourceful nature can be. For these animals, it's not just about sleeping through winter, it's about making sure they have a future when the snow melts, the flowers bloom, and the world warms up once again. Hibernation, in all its forms, is a reminder of how life finds a way to keep going, even when the odds are stacked against it. And honestly, if you had to sleep through the worst parts of life, wouldn't you?